Today we're going to talk about flying monkeys. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to speak about flying monkeys in terms of friends of a difficult person who support that difficult person in their perhaps slightly bizarre beliefs or their behavior. So let's say, for example, you're in a dynamic with someone who's difficult and they have a friend or a family member who supports them in their belief, who supports them in their view, who sees that they're doing nothing wrong and kind of enables them to further their own perhaps delusions about the situation. Maybe they involve themselves by speaking to you about how you're misunderstanding this person and it's something that's wrong with you and it's not them. And more often than not, they are close friends or family members. So it can be very difficult dealing with a flying monkey or somebody who is taking the side of the difficult person without really fully understanding the whole situation. Maybe they're completely blind to how difficult that person can be, and maybe they just don't want to hear it because it's a family member and it's something they just don't want to think about. It's something that's too challenging for them to acknowledge. So you have to understand that no matter how convincing the difficult person is, no matter how convincing the flying monkey is, the envoy, if you like, of the difficult person, then may get that envoy to phone or text or communicate with you to say to you, that you're being unreasonable and that they're having problems with you and you should be behaving differently and they wouldn't be difficult if only you were different. They can really interfere and it can be really frustrating, and there can be a real sense of injustice around somebody who steps in on behalf of someone who is being unreasonable, perhaps in this particular situation, in this instance, let's say, and then they bring in a third party who is totally on their side, not willing to accept that perhaps there's some fallibility or some issue that sits with this other person, and holding you somehow accountable for something that isn't true, that isn't your experience, that they've got the version of the situation from the other person, but they're not willing to see it from your perspective. So the envoy or the flying monkey can be very biased and can be very opinionated, because if the other person, the difficult person, has got them involved, chances are they've chosen someone who agrees with their way of thinking, who's totally got their back, and who isn't open to um, seeing things in a more reasonable or more 360 viewpoint. They would have chosen someone specifically who will be um, very on point, and that point being that point of the difficult person. So first of all, the temptation is to react against the envoy or the flying monkey who may come to you with an opinion about what you're doing wrong, and if only you weren't doing that, then this difficult person wouldn't be difficult. So if that is the situation, you have to accept, in the first instance, that this person, as the same with the difficult person, the envoy for the difficult person, is totally entitled to their opinion. And we can't change it. This person would have been chosen specifically because they would think in a way that adheres to the difficult person's point of view. So you're not going to change the difficult person's point of view, and you are not going to change the envoy. If they've gone as far as to reach out to you, then they're really invested in seeing things from the other person's point of view and very unlikely to want to see it from yours. All you can do in that situation is accept that they're entitled to their point of view, and that's the buzz. The buzz is they're entitled to their point of view. The feelings of frustration and injustice when someone is telling you that, reiterating something that's false, that's been given to you by a difficult person, reiterated by an envoy who's saying they're right and you're wrong, there is no point arguing with it. There's no point trying to get them to see your side. Neither of them want to. Neither of them want to see your side. All you can do is accept they're entitled to their opinion, and in that way, they have no hold over you. To destabilize you and make you justify yourself or argue back, all of those things, they take you out of your neutrality and your stillness. Come back to your neutrality and stillness with the buzz. They're entitled to their point of view. Can be particularly challenging when there's a third person involved because there's an indignance, there's an injustice, there's all sorts of feelings that come up, and it can feel a bit like being ganged up on, really. So, all of those things are valid to feel, but taking that back to them and feeding that back to them isn't going to make any difference. It's not going to change their point of view. They're invested in their beliefs. And as I say, this envoy would have been chosen specifically because they adhere to the same beliefs and they will not be interested in your point of view, and they will take anything that you say and alter it most likely to fit into the narrative that's generated by this difficult other. All you can do is let all of that go. The more you try and fight against it, argue your case, the more you're going to look like what they're suggesting. The more you push back, the more difficult you appear, then that's going to be more fuel for their fire. The more neutral you can be, it gives them nothing to hang on. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion. Your best friend, you know, they love you, of course they're gonna take your side. Your family member, they love you, of course they're gonna take your side, and I wouldn't expect anything less. But I don't agree with you, and I don't agree with them, but totally understand why they love you and support you, and it's appropriate that they love you and support you. The more neutral you can be, the easier it's going to be for you to manage, because this is all about how you manage, not about proving points, not about point scoring. It is about how you managing, coming back to a place of neutral and finding that stillness. With the buzz, they're entitled to their opinion. You've got this, sending you lots of love.